Welcome back, students. This is our lecture 3 of the weekly current affairs series of the July month. And here stands our quote of the week. The tyranny of a prince in oligarchy is not so much dangerous to the public welfare as the apathy of a citizen in a democracy. It is a quote by Montesquieu. This quote can be used in ethics because bureaucratic apathy is very much a reason for which this ethics paper was included or introduced. Apathy means insensitivity towards the people or towards the law, towards anything. And the opposite of this is empathy. Empathy means you are being sensitive. EMPATHY. You are being sensitive towards the other people's problem, and you are actually putting yourself in the shoes of others and then trying to realize what others are going through. And one more step ahead of empathy is compassion, which means that you are not only trying to empathize yourself with the other person, but you are also taking some steps to remove the other person's problem, to solve the other person's problem. So the main basic crux of this quote is that even in oligarchy means a kind of autocracy. Even there, the tyranny of the prince is not that much dangerous to the public welfare. Another keyword of ethics paper. For the public welfare, the tyranny of the prince, the autocracy, is not that much dangerous as the apathy of the citizens in a democracy. As apathy means you can see in a common common areas around you or the common scenario, like I may simply tell you that people are just putting garbage here and there. They are not much concerned about the environment. They are insensitive towards the environment, and likewise for other things. And this is apathy. So this democracy will not flourish until and unless citizens will become empathetic. They will till they remove their apathetic behavior, and it is for their good only. It is for the public welfare, and public constitutes the citizens. So in a way, they are hampering their own interest by such things. You can relate to anything. So this was the quote. Now let's start with our GS1 section, and the first subsection is geography. Here we are having only one topic, which is related to lightning, and as you know that I will be telling you that how a topic is important with respect to the exam and what kind of questions can we expect. So I will be putting more focus on those aspects rather than just telling you the news or just dictating the things. So that way you will also understand the things in interesting manner, and that will also fetch you something which is rewarding in the long run, and for which you are actually doing all these things. So the first thing is lightning. We have to deal with the mechanism of lightning, and that's where the question can revolve around. The during lightning, what happens is that in the clouds, the positive charge develops at the middle of the cloud, and at the lower terminal end of the cloud there is this negative charge, this, and usually the earth is electrically neutral as it is having larger potential, so all the charge that goes down to earth, but sometimes due to various reasons the positive charge may develop on the surface, and it is the interaction between this positive charge and the negative charge as these are opposite charges, these are not like charges, so they will attract each other, and this will happen. There will be a kind of we can say fusion of these unlike charges, and this is the reason of lightning. Like short circuit is there also we can see sparks. This is a kind of sparking, and this sparking, this lightning, this leads to thundering. That is actually a kind of sound effect which is being produced by lightning, but we see the lightning first and the thundering sound is heard afterwards, because the speed of light is more, as simple as that. So now let's move on to our next subsection, which is society, and it is also related to GS1. Here the first topic is related to Prasad scheme. Prasad scheme, if we simply put it together, it is related to pilgrimage. This thing we have to remember, that sometimes the kind of question here which can be asked is that Prasad scheme is related to what thing? It is related to pilgrimage. So there is no need to remember this whole thing. You may just go through it once just to have an idea, but this is not important. So the only thing which one has to remember is this thing, that this is related to pilgrimage, and it is centrally sector scheme, not sponsored. Center sector means the whole funding will be from the government side, and yeah, it is released by the Ministry of Tourism. As it is related to pilgrimage, so it will be related to tourism, and it was launched in 2011 14 and 15. So this thing can be asked in correlation to this, as mostly as we see that it is for the pilgrimage, and usually it is for the spiritual and heritage augmentation, means for the say temples or shrines. So maybe one may think that it may be related to the Ministry of Culture, so their examiner can twist and turn the things around, but it is related to tourism, and this things becomes quite easy once you relate it with pilgrimage. Now the objective is simple, that to give impetus to the identified pilgrimage and heritage destination. It includes infrastructure development such as roads, rail transport, and last mile connectivity, etc. This is very much a logical. You need not to remember these things will be there. That is logical, quite enough logical. Now the second topic is World Youth Skills Day. Means youth have to be imparted with skills, and this thing needs to be given due importance. Now let's take a brief background. In 2014, United Nations General Assembly declared 15th July as World Youth Skills Day. Not World Youth Day, but Youth Skills Day. These things can be confusing, and these dates are usually asked in the exams like state PCS, not in UPSC. So to celebrate the importance of equipping young people with the skills, like I said, that it is there to give due importance to the skilling and reskilling of youth. One thing which is important here, which one must remember, is this Incheon Declaration, or we can say Incheon Declaration. Incheon Declaration is related to Education 2030, means our goals with respect to the education on the timeline of 2030, that where are we imagining ourselves till 2030. That is Incheon Declaration. So this thing has to be achieved, means all the things which are there in this declaration, we need not to go in that, but all the things which are there in this declaration these needs to be achieved. So World Youth Skills Day, this is actually having focus on this thing, that we need to achieve Incheon Declaration, and Incheon Declaration itself is part of our Sustainable Development Goal 4. So SDG Goal 4 is related to inclusive and equitable education. So in a way, this declaration of Incheon is also related to sustainable development, and this itself is related to this World Youth Skills Day, because the United Nations General Assembly is celebrating this 15 July as a World Youth Skills Day in order to mark the achievements of Incheon Declaration and to give more focus on this. And the theme of 2021 was reimagining youth skills post pandemic. This is not related to the topic. I think this is some error. Yeah. So what we have to remember here, first is this 15th July as World Youth Skills Day. Then second, Incheon Declaration is related to Education 2030, and our Sustainable Development Goal is also related to this. This is goal number 4, which is dealing with the inclusive and equitable education. And the theme, actually this day is being celebrated from 2014 onwards to mark this thing, to give focus on this thing. So every year there will be a theme. So this time, as we know that we are facing a pandemic, so post pandemic what we are expecting was the obvious theme here, that reimagining youth skills post pandemic, that what steps we have to take to skill or reskill our youth, because we are facing lots of unemployment, mainly because the youth is not skilled enough. Job opportunities are there, but youth is not skilled enough. Although job crunch is also there, that is also one of the crude reality. But if we analyze the things which is not the part of our discussion here, there is also problem with skilling, the kind of curriculum we are having. So this was about the society. Now let's move towards our GS2 section and subsection of polity. Now here the first topic is related to Article 340. Before knowing this, we must be knowing that there is Article 366 of the Indian Constitution. This is related to giving various interpretations. Means this Article 366 is having the scope of interpretations of various other articles or various other provisions of the Constitution. That this article will tell you that what Article 340 is saying, what the interpretation of Article 340 is. This will be told by this Article 366, and likewise for other so many things, like we also saw in the abrogation of Article 370. There also this Article 366 was used. So Article 366 says that the appointment of the any commission for the backward classes will be dealt with as per Article 340, right? And what Article 340 is saying? Article 340 is saying that President is having the power to appoint a commission, right? This President is having the power to appoint a commission by a presidential order. Likewise, there is Article 342, which is similar, but that is for the commissions for SCs and STs, that President can order, and by that order the President can notify any area as a scheduled area. But one important thing is that this order cannot be reverted back by the president. Then if this order has to be, dissolved, then there has to be the consensus in the parliament. The voting will be there. So what has happened, that the news related to the commission to investigate the conditions of the backward classes, or we can say how the reservation is trickling down to the various subsections of the backward classes. Mainly it was for that. So this thing was in news, but the main article behind is 340 and 366, and under this the president is having the power to appoint the commission consisting of such people as he thinks fit to investigate the condition of socially and educationally backward people within the territory of India. Because we know that OBC status is being given even to those people who are not eligible. Thus there emerged the concept of creamy and non-creamy layer, as the majority of the benefits, they have been cornered by even the elite section within this OBC community, so that the people who are the legitimate ones for which this provision was there, all these benefits could not reach to them. They could not reap the benefits of such provisions of the constitution and such legal provisions, and most of the benefits were cornered by the people who didn't even deserve. So the question which can be asked is related to article 340, or is president is having power to appoint the commission or not, something like that, not with respect to exact news. Now the second news is that Governor Manoj Sinha of J&K, it is Lieutenant Governor, he has dismissed 11 government employees for alleged terror links under the provisions of Article 311 of the Constitution. So there may be question that is there any article which is related to removal or dismissal or reduction of the rank of any person in the civil services, means who is employed. So is there any such provision in the Constitution, or is it a statutory provision, or is it having a statutory backing, means in the form of an act of the parliament? So it is one of the things which many people don't know, that although there are various acts and provisions which are related to dismissal, removal and reduction in rank of people, like a person can be dismissed, a person can be suspended, but Constitution itself is having such provisions under Article 311. But this is only for the civil capacities, means only for the civil offenses and not for the criminal offenses. So let's take some detailed insight into this article. First, Article 311 clause 2 is saying that no civil servant can be dismissed, removed or reduced in rank except after an inquiry. So inquiry will be there, in which he or she has been informed of the charges and given a reasonable opportunity of being heard in respect of those charges. Means a person cannot be dismissed until and unless an inquiry is being held, and that person is also given a chance to be heard. But this is only for the civil offenses. In case of criminal offenses, the provision is being stated out clearly by the similar article having this clause 2 and subclause A, means the safeguards of this inquiry does not apply to conviction under the criminal charges, means this terror links, it comes under the criminal offenses, not the civil ones. And there is another subclause of C which is saying that it shall also not apply where the president or governor, as the case may be, is satisfied that it is in the interest of the security of the state that inquiry should not be held, and it is sufficient enough to remove a person. Means maybe they are not being charged under the criminal offenses, but if the president or the governor, they are satisfied enough that it is for the overall security of the country, then they can do anything. So this is a very we can say this is having very wider connotation. It is a very vague kind of thing, that there is no limit to this thing, this interest of the security of the state. But if we are having any kind of remedy to this, means although they are having this discretionary kind of thing, but are we having some remedy? Yes, in the form of High Court. One can challenge their decision in High Court. So the question which can come here is that with respect to the provision of the Constitution, that is there any provision for the dismissal, removal or anything, and is it applicable to civil or the criminal or both? So it is applicable to civil only, not for criminal. And who can use the discretionary power? President and governor. And can it be challenged or not? Yes, in High Court. These kind of questions can be asked in the preliminary examination. Now let's move ahead. There is a news about this Umang app. You just have to note down that this is related to governance. No need to just mug up this thing. Unified mobile application for new age governance. Although one may just have a glance, but this is not that much important. The only thing which you must be knowing is that this thing is related to governance. And the other things which are important for exam is that it is a single unified platform where let me first tell you about this. It is an online platform where you will get lots of services of different departments. For example, you want to file a complaint. For example, you want to apply for a certain job, or for that matter any other thing. So it is a single platform which is having the services of various departments in it, and it is also having, means it's a single, unified, and also a multilingual platform. Means you can access this platform, this online platform, in multiple languages, at least in the languages which are there in the 8th schedule, means 22 languages. And it is a multi-service mobile application. So multi-service means different kinds of services you will get from different departments, and the services with respect to both center and state. So the question may be, the services of only center or state are there? This kind of question can be asked. And is it a multilingual? Is it a single unified thing? And it is related to what governance? Also, it was launched in 2017 or 14, or for that matter any such date which can be used to confuse. And till date, as of now, Umang provides about 1251 services from 257 departments, and about this much of utility payment services, bill payment services, and many more services are there in the pipeline. In the pipeline means they are there to come in future. Means you can pay bill of various departments. Here this thing is not important at all to remember this much data as of now to pipeline. Just these things which I told you. So with this we came to an end of polity. Yeah, we are right there on time, I think. Now let's come to GS3, and first is IR section. IR means international relations. there is one big news, and I think this is a very important news. And mostly what happens is that UPSC doesn't directly ask questions from the news itself, and people just try to make the whole lot of notes on that, and they try to mug up things that is there only for the analytical part, which can be asked in mains but not in prelims. And what UPSC does in the prelims examination is that it asks the related peripheral news or the related peripheral fact which is related to that news. Like Afghan peace talks are news, so what UPSC will do, it will usually ask some place, some mapping with respect to Afghanistan, and actually the places or the investment which India has done in Afghanistan, because this whole issue is very much there in limelight for India, as India was not in mood for such talks with Taliban. So now let's take up the context first, and then we can discuss. Actually, after the exit of the US and NATO forces from the Afghanistan, Taliban is capturing many parts of the nation, as there are various factional groups among Talibans also. So it is a kind of we can say threat, and threat perception is there that maybe in future they may not adhere to the commitment or the agreement, because there are various factions in the Taliban itself, or it may be just a simple move before the agreement which will see there. But as apprehensions are there, so anything can happen, and India is concerned, because for India it will be the end of the diplomatic ties and all the investment which India has done in Afghanistan. And India has done a lot of investment in Afghanistan. Around 3 billion US dollars worth of Indian investment has been there in various aspects like personnel training, dams, roads, and other infrastructure. And also India was mostly having its diplomatic talks with the democratically elected Afghan government of Ashraf Ghani, and if that government is overthrown, so I don't think, and rather there is this apprehension that Taliban may not be well in sync with the ideas of India, because India was not initially in favor of talks with Afghanistan. So that thing may result in a way, or we can say a kind of cut off for India from this region. So it becomes very important for us to discuss the various investments of India in Afghanistan, because those places, those investments, all the infrastructures that are related to the India's investment in Afghanistan, that can be asked. Like first thing is the 2011 India-Afghanistan Strategic Partnership Agreement was there, for which the agreement included that infrastructure institutions, they will be developed, like with respect to education and technical assistance of capacity building. Capacity building means for skilling their youth, for educating their youth, and for that matter also giving training to their police personnel and also the administrators, because India is very good at this giving training to police and also the administrators. So this thing was very much there in 2011, this strategic partnership. Then there is a Salma Dam, which is in Herat province. This thing need not to be remembered that it is 42 megawatts or whatever. This Herat province is important, as location can be asked in match the following kind of thing. And this is important that it is also known as Afghan India Friendship Dam, and it was inaugurated in 2016. This thing also becomes important, I think. Hydropower and irrigation project means this dam is also related to irrigation. Then there is Zarang Delaram highway. It is also known as necklace highway from Zarang to Delaram. It is a highway built by Border Road Organization. This is very much important. This is not important. BRO has developed this road, and Zarang is located close to Afghanistan's border with Iran. This thing is also important. You can trace this highway in map. I forgot to include the map. This thing is not important. This thing is important, that Khashrud river goes along with this highway of Zarang Dilara, and it is to the northeast of Zarang, and Zarang is at the border junction with Iran. So this point is important, this border junction. Then BRO has developed it. This is important, and it runs along the side of Kashrud river. Now, third thing is that India has developed the Parliament of Afghanistan in Kabul, and Prime Minister inaugurated it. Not important. Then Store Palace was there. It was actually a previous infrastructure present there in Afghanistan, which was restored and inaugurated by Modi. And this Store Palace is also related with 2019 Rawalpindi Agreement. Rawalpindi Agreement is important, and it can become important with respect to prelims, because it was this agreement by which Afghanistan became an independent country. And with this Rawalpindi Agreement, this Store Palace is related. As I said, that it is an infrastructure which was already there, but it was renovated with India's help. So Store Palace is important, and I think it is in Kabul, right? It is in Kabul. Sometimes match the following kind of things can be asked, like Salma Dam is where, Parliament, Store Palace, they can be asked. Then India pledged $1 million for Aga Khan Heritage Project, and under this project, Aga Khan Heritage Project, there is this restoration of Baloch Fort, which is south of Kabul, and this Baloch Fort becomes important for us with respect to the exam of Assistant Registrar, because there is a section of current affairs from the history part. This Baloch Fort is important because it was an important fort of Mughals, and some parts of it were rebuilt by Jahangir, and it was used as a residence by Shah Jahan. These things can be asked, that Jahangir rebuilt this Baloch Fort. It was also a resident place of Shah Jahan for some time, and it comes under the its restoration comes under this Aga Khan Heritage Project, for which India has pledged $1 million. All these things can be asked in the examination, and it is the way by which you can connect the links, connect the dots together, by which I am showing you that these are the things which can be asked, and this is the way how you have to connect the dots, and by which you have to learn how things can be important with respect to exam, especially UPSC, also state PCS exams which are there. But as UPSC is becoming more analytical, so one has to be one step ahead. Then this point is related to the importance of Afghanistan for India, that despite the denial of overland route by Pakistan, there was an agreement with Afghanistan by which Afghanistan could send its products to India, but it could not take back the exports from India. Means India could not export through the same routes or through same trucks. Say the products came from Afghanistan to India through a route which was passing through Pakistan, because Pakistan is the connecting link, and at Wagah border they used to unload the things, but the trucks they used to go empty. Means their back drive is completely empty, and this is actually a loss for India and Afghanistan also, but Pakistan denied for this, that any product is taken from India to Afghanistan. And despite this thing, India-Afghanistan trade has grown with the establishment of, in 2017, of an air freight corridor. Means there were various bottlenecks in this road network, like I said one of the examples. So they started air freight corridor, means through this air cargos, airplanes. So with this, still India and Afghanistan having a bilateral trade of $1.3 billion is actually enormous. Still, it's a huge landmark. So there is a lot of potential in Afghanistan. This thing is very much evident for this. So this is how things can be asked in preliminary examination. In mains examination, maybe the current issue which is there in news, that should India be going away from this agreement, or what should be the India's approach, and likewise. But those are not the things of our concern here. So with this, we completed IR. Only one main thing was here. Now let's move on to our GS3 part, and let's take up the economy section. RBI unveils retail direct scheme. This retail direct scheme. Before knowing this scheme, we must be knowing two things. First, who is a retail investor? Simply, you can say that a retail investor is one who sells and buys the shares or equity. This equity means shares. In simple language, shares. Also the mutual funds or the ETFs, exchange traded funds. All these are very technical terms. Means ETF, mutual funds, equity, they are out of the scope of this discussion, because it will take a lot of time to discuss all those things. So I will recommend you to go through all these terms through internet or whatever source you may find best, maybe the books, and then you will be having much better understanding of these things. But simply putting it here, I would say everyone is at least aware with this term of equity or shares, at least with the term of shares, that we are having certain shares in a company. We are giving, it is a kind of instrument that we are say investing in a country, and in lieu of that they are giving us a piece of paper, a kind of agreement that you have invested this much of thing in our company. So let's give you this much of shares. Means you are having some share in our company by investing say 10,000 rupees. So just take this piece of paper, which can be worth anything. That depends from company to company. So this is a kind of, say, currency notes. Like currency notes are there, they are having some value, and when we put all those together, we are getting a bigger value. Like say I got 10,000 rupees from the bank, and I denominated them in the form of 2000 rupees each. So I will be getting 5 currency notes of 2000 rupees. So overall I am having 10,000 rupees, but in 5 different notes, which is a currency paper. Likewise, if I am investing say 10,000 rupees in a company, so they are giving me 5 papers of 2000 rupees, means a kind of proof, kind of instrument that okay, you have invested this much, you have invested 10,000, where each share is having the value of 2000 rupees. So in a way you have got 5 shares in the company. So this is the basic concept about the share. And there is the concept of mutual funds, that mutual funds means when the funds are pooled together to invest in different companies, it is mutual fund, and it is being done by a broker, an expert who knows very well that which company is going to do good in future on the basis of various statistics. So a retail investor is one who is dealing with shares, who is buying and selling the shares. And gilt account is the account where one can buy, means it's a kind of bank account where one can buy or sell the shares, where shares are credited or debited, right? And not only the shares, but any kind of security like treasury bills, government dated securities, means instead of money you are using that account for debiting or crediting of the securities. That can be shares, that can be treasury bills, that can be government securities, etc. So a retail investor is actually having a gilt account by which he is buying and selling the securities or shares or mutual funds, anything. As simply putting it, like you are a person who wants to send money to some person, or who wants to get money from some person. For this means you want to do online transaction. For this you must be having some bank account first. So in a way you are a retail investor, just imagine that, and the account which you are having is the gilt account. Just the difference is that instead of money you are trading in, you want to transfer the shares. That is the simplest thing I can tell you. And now when we are familiar with these two terms, gilt account and retail investor, now we can easily understand the scheme of retail direct scheme, where a retail investor will be able to open retail direct gilt account RDG directly with the RBI. Earlier there was no provision for an individual to open a gilt account with RBI. Now under this scheme, a retail investor will be allowed to open a gilt account simply with the RBI, so that it can directly buy or sell the government securities from RBI, because in the market we usually buy or sell the shares. We cannot directly deal with government securities. Government securities like the treasury bills are there. Treasury bills are having a short-term maturity period of 90 days. This thing needs to be remembered, and they are only and only being issued by the central government. Then there comes government dated securities. Dated security means they are having longer date. That's why they are known as dated securities, means their maturation period is more than 90 days. So they are held by the RBI, right? So only certain organizations or the governments, they could deal with the RBI. They could buy or sell these government securities like the banks, but not the individuals. But now here under this scheme, individual investors who will be known as retail investors, they will be able to open a gilt account with the RBI, and then directly purchase or sell the government securities, which involve treasury bills, like I told, then dated securities having maturity period more than 90 days, then sovereign gold bonds and state development loans, SDLs. These are also some things which are out of scope of this discussion, so please go and refer the basic definitions of these things. So one more important thing is that it will be related to registering yourself on this online portal, and there will be no charge on account. These things can be converted into MCQs, like will there be any charge, and will it be an online portal or not, and a retail investor can invest in equity shares, mutual funds or not, ETFs or not, or commodity contracts or not. Is this scheme covering SGBs, SDLs or not, treasury bills or not, dated securities or not, such kind of things. So significance is that this scheme is one-stop solution to facilitate investment in government securities by individual investors. This will also give impetus to the buying and selling of government securities. Their demand will increase, so that their value will also increase, especially during this pandemic time when we are already facing recession. Recession means our growth rate is negative for consecutive 2 quarters, although now it has been more than 2 quarters, but the basic definition of recession is this. Objective of the scheme is to improve the accessibility of government securities. And one more important thing which can be asked in the examination is this: NDSOM is related to what thing? It is RBI's screen-based electronic order matching system for trading in government securities in the secondary market. So it is simply an RBI's on-screen or online initiative for trading in government securities, but in the secondary market, not in the primary market. Like you bought some say treasury bills from the RBI, but then you want to sell these treasury bills not to RBI but to some other person outside there in the market. That is known as secondary market. Primary market was that you bought those, you purchased those treasury bills from RBI. That was a primary thing. Then secondary activity is that you want to sell those to some other person apart from RBI. So once you bought those under this scheme, then the similar scheme is also allowing you access to this system, NDSOM, which is allowing you to trade in government securities which you have bought in the secondary market as well. Then means you bought the securities from RBI, right? Means you bought this, then you want to sell them in secondary market. One minute. Secondary market means you bought these from RBI and then you want to sell them in secondary market. Now, right, Bhutan became the first country to adopt India's UPI, Unified Payment Interface, for quick response code, QR code. It is the second country to use Bhim UPI. At merchant locations, merchant location means you are going to shops and there you are using this Bhim UPI, say Bhim app for transactions, but not the QR code itself. That is because QR code was something which came afterwards in this application. Earlier it was only that you could transfer to bank account or say phone number. So Singapore was the first country to accept Bhim UPI at merchant location. Then Bhutan became the first country, means second country to do this, means use Bhim UPI at merchant location, but it became the first country to use UPI standards for QR response, means apart from India. Then also Bhutan will also become the only country to issue and accept a Rupee card as well as Bhim UPI. Now we saw that Bhim UPI is also being accepted by Singapore, but Singapore has not accepted Rupee cards. Bhutan has accepted, so it is the only country to accept and issue both the things, mean Rupee cards and Bhim UPI. We must be knowing the basic thing that what UPI is. It is Unified Payment Interface. Means you are a person, say you want to transfer money to some other person. What you will do is that you will go to bank, and then that bank will transfer the money to the other person's account. Or the other way around is that you will go to a bank, B1, transfer money to that bank, and that bank will transfer money to B2 bank, because another person whom you want to transfer the money is having the bank account in B2, not in B1. So this takes time. Like NTFS is there, they take time. They are not quick, and they are not what we say, they are not on time, they are not doing things in real time basis. So what UPI is, that it is acting a kind of service provider here in the middle. When you are using this service provider, this middle UPI, it is Unified Payment Interface, means it is a kind of interface between these two people, where you can transfer money to this person through this interface in real time. Means he may be having bank account in any bank, that doesn't matter, this interface will handle the things. And the mechanism how it handles the things is very much a detailed aspect, so we will not dig in deep to that aspect. But the most important thing here is that it is a real-time basis payment here. Real time means as you transferred the money, it will reach the other person within the fraction of seconds. Then this interface will settle things with bank afterwards, that is their headache, but a person will get a service of real time. And also it doesn't matter that you are transferring from one bank to another or from the similar banks. And this is important, this can be asked in the examination, that is it a real time basis or it takes time, this UPI. And also it has been developed by which corporation? This is NPCI, National Payment Corporation of India. This is important, very very important. And Bhim is also such UPI app, means is also kind of interface. And also MasterCard, Visa, they are all interfaces of money transactions. But it is our native one, local one, Bharat interface. But PhonePe, MasterCard, Visa, they are all related to the foreign countries, so there we have to pay them. And also one important thing is that there are security issues. And one more important thing which you must remember, that government has completely removed all the taxes. One has to pay such transactions through UPI. Now let's move ahead and come to this Udan scheme. Udan means Ude Desh Ka Aam Nagrik, means it is a kind of cheap flights thing. And the main aim of this is to connect small cities with metros, to use the less utilized airports in the country to offer affordable flights to the people. And what will happen under this scheme, that nearly half of the seats in the Udan flights are offered at subsidized fares. And who will bear that loss? Because no airline will be allowing itself to go for such thing, that half of the seats will be reserved for at a subsidized price. No airline will be interested in such a project. So for that, like I taught you in the earlier previous lecture also, that there is a concept called viability gap funding, that if a project is not much viable, if one is expecting a profit of say this much, say 100, but the realized profit can be 50, as here can be the case, that an airline who is interested and who is expecting a profit of 100 rupees from say, or 100 crore from anything, you can take any figure to understand the example, but the real profit which it is seeing due to such schemes is 50. So what government will tell these service providers, that we will fill this gap of 50 rupees, we will provide you 50 rupees or this 50 crore or whatever it can be from our own pocket to fill or to bridge this viability gap. Means otherwise this project is inviable. So here this thing, there will be viability gap funding from the government side, and this will be from both center and the state concerned. Okay, so what objectives can we expect from here? We can object Udan scheme is related to what thing? Affordable flights. There is the concept of viability gap funding, and the amount share between center and state. This can be asked. Also, the fourth round of Udan was launched in December 2019 with special focus on northeastern region, hilly states and island. So this can be asked, that Udan 4 is related to or is having focus on which of the following regions: northeastern, hilly states and islands. This can be asked. So with this we completed our economy section. Now let's move on to the science and tech section, and the first topic here is, what is the right to repair movement? Right to repair means simply the company should be providing spare parts to you, and also to the repair shop keepers, so that, and also the module or the manuals by which a person can easily repair some simple things, some simple faults, and also it will be very much easy for the repair shopkeepers to repair the things by using the original spare parts if they are given on on a regular basis, or we can say if they are given on in ample amount, if there is such kind of policy from the company, and also if certain manuals are being given to people and also to these repair shops, so that we will be having less load of this e-waste. Because what companies are having, they are having a culture of planned obsolescence, which means that the devices are designed specifically to last a limited amount of time and are to be replaced. This is putting immense pressure on environment and wasted natural resources, because e-waste is also being generated, which is difficult to process. And this way we can also have a challenge, that how can a person or a common person who is not having know-how of repairing, how can a company put the device or give the device in his hands? This is actually one of the drawbacks, but for that the company can come up with the guidelines that such and such basic things only can be done by a common person, and more of the skilled work which is there, they can be done by repair shops if proper spare parts and proper manuals and training is being given to them also. So this way we can easily tide over such problem, or we can easily at least tackle up to a large extent with the problem of this e-waste. And the problem with this movement is that it is having various privacy issues with the various products. So a middle path should be there. One has to come up with something which is beneficial for both the customers and the companies, and also for the environment. Then another news is that NASA has announced that it will launch its Viper mission in 2023. Viper means Volatiles Investigating Polar Exploration Rover. Rover means a vehicle which will land on a celestial body and then it will have exploration there. This is not important, its definition is not important, or its full form. Just this Viper is important, and it is a NASA's project. This is important, and it is for the resource mapping mission on the celestial bodies. It is for the moon, and moon is also a celestial body, and it is for research mapping, and it is the first research such mission for research mapping, because till now whatever missions we have sent, they are mostly for other exploration purposes, not for the resource exploration. Means if we also explored for water on various planets, but that was only there to confirm that is life there, is possibility of life there, but not for its use as a resource. So what it will do, it will go to south pole of moon. It will also create a lunar resource map and evaluate the concentration of water, also other potential resources on its surface. Now let's move ahead. Union government has issued new guidelines for the use of, or it will issue, sorry, new guidelines for the use of flex engines in flexible fuel vehicles. Flex means flexible fuel vehicles, means flexible means they are using both the petrol which is blended and also the unblended fuel, not only just petrol but some other thing also, say diesel, blended diesel, blended with ethanol. So as we are also having our missions on the this blending of ethanol in diesel and this petrol as part of our biofuel program, because that will be economical in various ways. First of all, the price of the fuel per liter will decrease. It will also be less polluting, and also India is having surplus production of corn, sugar and wheat, through which this ethanol is being produced, and it will also add an add an extra income to the farmers. And for this we have to remember that this flex engines or this flexible fuel vehicle is actually being related to run the automobiles on the gasoline and doped petrol with different levels of ethanol blends, mean both are blended and non-blended fuel. It is related to that, but for this the engines need to be modified. That will take an extra cost for the companies and also for the customers. So it is not that much easy to implement, but it will be good for the environment. And these engines, these vehicles will be using both blended and unblended fuel, and FFVs have capable engine to run on more than 84% ethanol blended petrol. This thing is important, that what percent of blending can be allowed in these engines. Means what percentage of blended fuel can be accommodated in these engines. Now let's come to our next topic, which is related to UVC disinfectant technology. It will be installed in Parliament for mitigation of airborne transmission of SARS-CoV-2 virus. We know that UV rays are produced by sun, and they are mainly having three components: UVA, UVB, and UVC. UV among these, UVA is having the longest wavelength, and UVC is having the smallest wavelength among the UVs. UV per se is having the short wavelength, means more frequency and more energy. Long wavelength means less frequency and less energy. So this UVC is having shorter wavelength, so more frequency and more energy. Thus it is also used for killing the germs. It is also known as the ultraviolet germicide irradiation, UVGI, and that's why it is being used as a disinfectant. And UVC rays are being absorbed by the Earth's ozone layer. This is important. Only UVA and some UVB rays are allowed. That's why UVC rays are also dangerous. Now let's talk about this Hubble Space Telescope. Hubble Telescope is a NASA's project. It was launched in 1990s, and the important thing about is that it is being built by the United States Space Agency, NASA, and contribution from European Space Agency is also there. So it is by the cooperation of these two space agencies that Hubble telescope is was launched in 1990, and it is the only telescope designed to be serviced in space by astronauts. Means and there is no need to bring this telescope back to Earth for servicing, and Hubble telescope can make an orbit around Earth every 95 minutes. These things can be asked in the examination, means this thing and this thing, like it is built by which agencies, and also is it serviceable in space or not, and is it the only such telescope or not. Now let's move to the environment section of the GS3. Here the first news is related to NTPC REL. REL means Renewable Energy Limited. It is related to this green hydrogen mobility project. Means NTPC REL to set up India's first green hydrogen mobility project in Ladakh. So with respect to the exams of J&K, this becomes important. And NTPC REL is a 100% subsidiary of NTPC. Only this much is important in this news. And here another news is that European Union has unveiled some of the world's most ambitious proposals. For example, one proposal is Fit for 55, which means that by 2030, European Union has a target to reduce the CO2 emissions, or we can say greenhouse gases emissions, by 55%. That's why Fit for 55. But the levels which will be compared will be of 1990s. And for this, what it will consider, this transport section, both personal and commercial, which means that cars with combustion engines, for example, will not be produced within the bloc, means European Union, from 2035. So it will have its emphasis on this transport section. Also, there is a concept of carbon border. Carbon border means there is a border inside which one cannot enter with a material which is having a particular carbon threshold footprint. Carbon footprint means the carbon content, because what usually happens is that if a country is following certain norms but other countries are not following those norms, so if one is importing the material from that country, so it is expected that their material will be having more carbon value or the carbon content, and thus carbon footprint. So this thing will not be allowed now. So a border will be means it is a psychological border, it is an imaginative border, means a kind of restriction is there which will be there in the European Union boundaries, that now the companies may not be able to import the cheaper material from those countries which are not complying with the norms, and the only material which you can import will be the one which will be complying with the carbon footprint values, means only those materials can enter now this border of European Union. Now there is one more important news which is related to this national mission for clean Ganga. The only thing which one has to remember is that there is National Ganga Council which is having a statutory backing in the form of Environment Protection Act 1986. It was earlier known as a National Ganga River Basin Authority, but then it was renamed as National Ganga Council, and it was developed, it was made under the provisions of Environment Protection Act. And under this project, under this National Ganga Council, there is the implementation arm, means this National Ganga Council, this project, this will be implemented by its implementation arm, which is National Mission for Clean Ganga. And it may look like it is a mission, by name it may look like that, but it is actually a registered society under the Society Registration Act 1960, and it was registered on 12th August 2011, means it is an implementing arm of this National Ganga Council. And one important thing with respect to National Ganga Council is that PM is the head. This can be asked in examination, and its statutory backing can be asked in examination, and its implementation arm is National Mission for Clean Ganga. This can be asked, and this National Mission for Clean Ganga, it is registered as a society under this act. This can be asked. Now let's move ahead. This news is with respect to India's targets with respect to the renewable energy. So India is having its target of 40% of its power generation through non-fossil fuel sources, means from the renewable energy sources. 40%, this is important, this can be asked. And then this can be asked that 450, what is this 40% now? 40% is equal to 450 gigawatts of renewable energy by 2030. Timeline is 2030, and India has already touched 200 gigawatts of demand, even when the effects of COVID-19 was still there. These three facts are important: 40%, 450 of total target, and 200 has already been reached. And two schemes which are being important with respect to the implementation of this is Deen Dayal Upadhyay Gram Jyoti Yojana scheme, and another is Saubhagya scheme. This scheme is actually related to electrification of villages. This is related to villages and providing the electrification infrastructure, electricity distribution infrastructure in the rural areas. This was earlier known as Rajiv Gandhi Gramin Vidyutikaran Yojana. And another scheme is Saubhagya scheme. It is also known as Pradhan Mantri Sahaj Bijli Har Ghar Yojana. So the complete then synonym that this becomes Saubhagya. So we must only remember that this Saubhagya scheme is related to electricity or electrifying all the households by December 2018, and this thing was launched in 2017, and it is not related to something urban or rural. It is generally for households, and the target was moved forward to 2019, and eventually this center declared that all the willing homes have been produced with the electricity connection, means the people who are not willing to get the connections, they were not given. So these two schemes need to be remembered separately as well, means their targets, their relation with what thing, and they must be remembered with respect to this news of this means the India's targets of this renewable energy, because these two schemes are very much important for our targets of renewable energy, because through these schemes only we can achieve these targets. Means if we are generating some electricity, then we can apply these schemes, we can use these schemes to do these things, to tackle with our targets. Now let's come to mains special. Like we had left the role of NGOs in the previous lecture, that it is also having role in tribal rights, as was witnessed in Vedanta versus POSCO case, that NGOs have raised voice against the discrimination of tribals by the multinationals, means companies. Many of these NGOs have partnered with Gram Panchayat in the proper implementation of the acts like Forest Rights Act, Campa Act, etc. So wherever there is a need for giving suggestions that how forest right acts can be implemented, or any such kind of act, or the role of NGOs, there these things can be used. And also we must be knowing some of the NGOs which are actually playing their part in the environment protection. So one is Greenpeace, another is WWF, and third is Bombay Natural History Society. There are others as well, but these are the important ones. So with this we ended our discussion. For any query or for any thing which you want to ask, please tell us in the comments, and also participate in the quiz. The PDF of this lecture and also the quiz, that will be given in the link. And please like, share and subscribe to our channel, and just spread these things to more and more people, so that more and more people will get benefited out of it. So here we will end our discussion. Thank you.